This is the Emag disassembly and reassembly video. Your Emag represents the flagship line of Airgun Design's products. It has electronic controlled system in the grip, rechargeable battery pack, removable barrel, and the famous RT fast recharge valve. We're going to go through the disassembly and the reassembly of this gun today and talk about it. First of all, the barrel comes out with a quick pull of the twist lock. It has two nubbins in these barrels for better ball control. We highly recommend this if you use the warp feed with any of the AGD products. The Emag is Airgun Design's first electronic gun. It features a computer system in the grip frame with LED display, nickel metal hydride battery pack in the front, which is removable, and one of the most important features of this gun is a switch to switch between mechanical mode with a long trigger pull and electric mode with a short trigger pull. We're going to go through some different disassembly steps of this today so you can see the basics of how the gun is put together, and we'll talk about some of its features. First of all, the battery pack can be removed by unscrewing the front field strip screw. This field strip screw is identical to the one that holds the valve system in the back. The battery slides off of a dovetail mount. You can see two contacts for the positive and negative terminals on the inside. The battery pack can be disassembled by the two screws in the bottom. It's important not to let the contacts contact themselves when you're disassembling the battery pack. This is the nickel metal hydride battery pack with the contacts on the top. This O-ring acts as a spacer in the bottom of the battery pack to push the contacts up against the top portion of the battery housing. So don't forget this when you put it back together. Simply slides in. Top on. Put the O-ring in. And your battery pack is back together. You'll notice that there's two contacts in the frame. One is ground, one is positive, and it's been insulated. Working our way back through the gun, we'll take off the sight rail real quick. Now we have access to the full side of the main body. What we can do now is unscrew the field strip screw. Remove the valve assembly. Remove the bolt. To further disassemble the valve, we can take apart the on-off. The Emag has a different on-off assembly than standard Automags. It has a black quad O-ring on the top. This is not your standard urethane O-ring, and this is special only to the Emag. Also, it has a silver on-off top. As you can see here, it's not brass. It has a brass bottom as normal, but this is also a custom part only for the Emag. So if you replace this part, make sure you call AGD and get the proper parts. Twisting the valve body apart, we have a couple of small parts in here which are the regulator valve. There are several small parts on this valve. If you find any of these broken, call AGD for replacements. There's several O-rings. It's not the type of thing you want to take apart. You should just clean it and oil it and reassemble it. Also, this is the regulator seat O-ring here. This can be replaced if you have problems with velocity. Nothing else is user serviceable except for what's inside the power tube tip. And to unscrew that, you need a coin. This is the power tube tip. Inside is the power tube spacer. Comes out next. The spacer has numbers on it to determine how long the spacer is. If you have leaking out the barrel, this is the thing to replace, or the power tube O-ring, which is down inside here. The power tube O-ring comes in the parts kit. So any leakage that you have down the barrel should replace the power tube O-ring or adjust your spacer length. Now the main body is completely empty. This is a power feed main body. This is called a hopper right because the hopper sits on the right side of the gun. We also sell them in hopper left, vertical feed, as well as a special warp feed body. Warp feed bodies have a very short feed tube pointing down, and the power feed plug goes in the top. So to remove the main body, we unscrew the front frame screw. Now the body comes off. Front frame screw slides out. And we're left with a rail and the lower grip frame. To take the rail off, we unscrew the sear pin. And the rail should slide straight off. So now we're left with the grip frame assembly with the sear sticking out. Next, we can unscrew the grip frame and we can get underneath into the area of the electronics. The Emag has an internal circuit board with LED display. The LED lights up so you can see it in the darkness. There are 3 jumpers on the board where things plug into. The solenoid is soldered to the board. The main wires here in the center. These wires right here hook up the sensor for the trigger. This jumper right here that comes installed in the Emag is for accessing your additional modes, your 3-shot burst modes. If you remove this jumper, you can only go into semi-auto mode. This is for tournament use. There is an additional plug up in the front. It's a 2-pin plug. That is for the connection to the warp feed, so you can send a signal to the warp feed to feed. So there are 3 plugs. The top one is for the warp feed. The middle one is for your Hall effect sensor behind the trigger. The lower one is for programming, which is not available right now, as well as the jumper